Good morning, folks. This is Talking Point here on WESN Television with a Difference. Sean Michael Small here, your host this morning on the show that seeks to delve into the issues and, generally speaking, hear the opinions and thoughts of those willing to analyze the situation from a variety of perspectives and, give some definitive statements and not necessarily hiding behind hedging our bets and hiding behind, well, the Prime Minister said this and the opposition leader said that. Well, okay, but what does that mean? And we try to give our best determination on that. So with that said, there are a couple of interesting topics this morning that I want to touch on that I feel shows just how, well, at least one of them could show just how easy it is to misunderstand a situation, even when you are technically a professional, speaking in a professional capacity, but you yourself are not central to a situation, and you might misconstrue the conclusions coming out of an event, coming out of a statement, coming out of a situation that happened in the country that is of national relevance. What am I talking about? Well, let's start off today's Daily Review. And the first story I wanted to touch on, I find it's both interesting and slightly confusing, and I'll admit, again, I don't know what procedures are with regards to the various arms of the public service. Of course, you have special purpose companies and state-owned assets, right, which technically might be running on a more private model. It all depends on how it's set up. But of course, then you also have things like the protective services themselves, which obviously, that's about as public of a service as you get for the most part. Now, we just heard not too long ago, if you could remember, that leave for officers was cancelled. This was about 2 to 3 months ago. And of course, it wasn't that all leave blanket was cancelled, but I believe it was restricted, sorry. That's the best way to put it. And it was seen as an attempt, and I think at the time I somewhat applauded it because these are the things that senior leadership could make these types of decisions in order to try to deal with our crime problem. Of course, it comes with its negatives, right? So it's not something that you do very easily or willy-nilly. But now it's only a couple of months after, and senior officers are going on leave. And some of them are going on leave for a significant amount of time. Apparently, one of the public faces of the TTPS, Senior Superintendent Roger Alexander, is reported to have leave that will take effect from January and will last for 773 days. Now, apparently, this leave is somewhat of an administrative duty and is being staggered with regards to all of the various senior officers who need to go on leave. And basically, it seems as though the Commissioner of Police is telling people when to go because they held off from the August period of allowing leave, but now it's being said, okay, you could go, this is when you could go. And it's being staggered so that they don't all go at once, which I understand that. What I don't necessarily understand, at least first off in this statement, what's the difference between the August vacation and the Christmas vacation and the carnival season? It's not really a better or worse time. And one could argue the lead up to Christmas into carnival could potentially be a period where crime will spike. But I think the main thing that bothers me, because I am not a TTPS HR worker, professional, supervisor, manager, policymaker, what have you. One, there's reported to be concerns about what junior officers make of this, where their leave is still restricted and senior officers are going on long leave. Again, this is what's reported. Because the restriction was all leave exceeding 14 days will be restricted until further notice. So you could still have a day off here or a day off there, some emergency happens, but to say you go on vacation for 3 weeks. But apparently, some senior officers might be sent on leave as long as 5 years. So one, there's the aspect of junior officers, and there's conflicting reports. Apparently, it seems as though the association might not have gotten much complaints, or they might not have gotten much official complaints from officers with regards to the seeming disparity between statuses. I believe an officer has said anonymously, I'm not entirely sure, in the report that junior officers are being demotivated. But, and they also point out to officer burnout, which is something that I've been speaking about for months. Not months, sorry, years. I have been wondering about that since COVID, since 2021, when things just kept added on to police. And then when restrictions were lifted and kids went back to school, oh yeah, police solved that too. And yeah, police solved that too. Oh wait, Coast Guard are patrolling, police, riverine maritime units, solved that too. Now, my main concern, however, is the timing of this is very interesting. And I wonder how necessary it is. That is to say, could leave for senior officers continue to be restricted? Maybe it couldn't. Maybe it couldn't. But unfortunately, how does this look to you? We just were told that efforts are going to be redoubled. And now senior officers are going to be put on leave. Is it that senior officers are not necessary for fighting crime? Is that the unspoken secret, the implication, that when we see senior officers, you know, clamoring to get a position in front of a camera to speak with regards to major weapons fines or drug fines or what have you, but they weren't necessarily even important for the case, they're just there to take the credit? Is that what's going on? Because that's what it implies. More importantly, if you're going to be serious about crime, I don't know how you're going to potentially give senior police officers anywhere from 2 years to 5 years worth of leave. I'll be honest, I have a hard time believing the report as is. Not that I don't believe the newspaper that reported it, just because I find it is so ridiculous that there is so much leave accrued to be given out. And now is the time it is thought best to give out the leave. And if this is true, then it's making me wonder, what is the administrative policies and HR policies that have created this situation? Because unless you want to tell me that senior leadership are completely redundant and irrelevant in the fight against crime, you are essentially then telling me, if that's not true, you're essentially then telling me that we're going to send troops out into the field without a commanding general and we hope that they could defeat the enemy. That's the rhetorical statement. The practical statement is, we're telling police, hey, listen, your bosses are on leave, so you all figure it out. Aren't the senior officers supposed to be the most experienced, the most capable? Isn't that why they're given the position that they're given? Or is it that they have these positions because they're senior? Are they good at their jobs? Yeah. But they're senior. Is that what it is? Because it makes all of the messaging, it just completely undermines everything said about crime, probably over the last month, which already had a credibility issue coming into this week. When you have a situation where another suspect potentially got beaten while in custody, whether he was beaten in police custody or prison's custody, that is up to somebody to figure out with regards to the timeline. Who beat him? It's not clear that it's, at least to me, that it's protective services or fellow inmates or what have you. But the point is, it looks bad. The porous borders look bad. The lack of arrests of any major criminal masterminds, anyone actually in charge, shot callers, look bad. The murder rate looks bad. The fact that hard drugs are coming into the country and the only time we could really find them is when they accidentally wash up on the shore for us. that criminals are so emboldened now that they're going after deputy commissioners of prisons, so basically now senior members of protective services, and religious institutions are no longer sacrosanct. Churches are being broken into, Hindu temples are being broken into, Muslim places of worship are being broken into, children are being killed. The situation is devolving, and now, just after we get the dog and pony show, oh look, we have a meeting, oh look, we're going to redouble our efforts for the umpteenth time, senior leadership of the primary protective service with regards to the domestic crime issue, are sent on some ridiculous length of leave. Who has allowed the administration of the police services HR situation to come to this point? And again, I have to ask, where's the accountability for the protective services? All right, moving on to the next story before I rant aimlessly further on that. The debate for polygraph testing is continuing, and I'm kind of left wondering, to what extent on an issue like this should the debate continue as normal. And I understand the opposition's need to not just be a pushover and allow the government to do whatever. I understand that completely. This is the show that says that if you are a supporter of the PNM, you should want the UNC to be strong. Because if you have a strong opposing party, it will then cause your party to have to do things even better. Well, that's not the mentality of people. No. I don't need my side to be better. I just need the other side to be worse. Now, the opposition is debating this, and I do think on the surface, science aside, there are a lot of technicalities about polygraph testing, but I don't think a reasonable argument could be made not to have it. Now, polygraph testing is not necessarily new with regards to our members of our protective service. This bill apparently seems to want to allow it to be applied for people already employed. And while there are units in the police and the Ministry of National Security that I believe have already been tested, they're not just looking at police. And this is, to be fair to the Minister of National Security, I think this is a very important point for the public to understand, whichever way you side on this issue. Because one of the things, in the debate, Minister Young pointed out the Registrar General's office, employees tampering with land certificates, creating bogus birth certificates. There was one case of a taxpayer apparently owing $35 million in taxes, but being facilitated to just pay $1 million, right? And these are the kinds of things. I think Minister Hines also had some examples of his own. Mr. Hines called out a murder of an elderly Tobago couple in which the murderers were trying to access a unit trust account of $400,000. Two of the accused were former employees of unit trusts who shared the information. We also have questions with regards to banks and who might be the observers or the leakers of information on bank accounts. So when people come to take out cash, and how are targets being selected. So these are very real concerns, and I understand that. And they're looking now to utilize this bill to allow for polygraph testing for people involved in these places of responsibilities. I think the debate is moving at a snail's pace because it's moving as how all debates move, and that's what's disappointing. I don't have an issue with the opposition having concerns and holding fast to specific concerns, but so far, to some extent, I do wonder if, does it have to be this slow? Do we have to debate it as though this is a great evil? Because there are limitations to polygraph testing, I get that. But there are also limitations to other forms of interrogation. You could get false positives with polygraph testing. You could technically get something akin to false positives with regards to interrogation, depending on how you handle it, depending on what you say, depending on how unethical your questioning is. And of course, there are other things as well, but certain forms of white-collar crime or corruption or what have you, you're not necessarily going to have DNA forensic evidence. You might be able to get forensic evidence from financial statements, but you won't necessarily be able to get, to put the pieces together. If you can't, to some extent now, there will come a point in time with some cases where, okay, you have to interrogate the suspects. Do we want to just leave it up to whoever interrogating them like normal? Why not have another tool in the toolbox, another arrow in the quiver? And I get it. The debate should not be centered about if we should have this bill, but rather, and to some extent, this is what the debate is. I'm just saying that it seems to be, why is this taking quite so long, and to what extent are some of the arguments from the opposition unnecessary? Because we should really just nail down the points of, okay, what are these safety measures we need to put in place to prevent specific scenarios that might be detrimental to the rights of our citizens. All right, cool. But this just, when you take the example of the crime talks that probably now never will be, you do have to question, when will the government and the opposition be willing to come together to figure this out? Now, granted, sometimes the government puts some real nonsense in bills that needs to be debated, and needs to be either modified or outright blocked because they're not willing to modify. So I understand that, again, the opposition can't just roll over and acquiesce. But, so perhaps it's best to say that my disappointment is on both sides of the aisle, depending on how long this bill takes. Because we can't talk about police corruption and then just kind of sit down and say, well, it's fine, however long it takes for them to get it done, they get it done. No. We need this sooner rather than later if we want to solve our issues. We can't afford to spend weeks on a debate. Literally, I don't think we have weeks to spend on any sort of debate with regards to law enforcement, which again makes the first topic with senior police officers going on leave for so long. I don't understand that. It's almost as though we still operating under business as usual conditions. There's no sense of urgency in this, except when you have a photo opportunity. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll continue with more topics here on Talking Point. The more I read, the more I don't understand, folks. Stay tuned.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
My name is Carl Media. I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3, search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Welcome back to Talk About, ladies and gentlemen, and of course we're going to cut the daily review a little bit short here today because I have with me once again, it was nice one, so we thought to do it twice here, Tuesdays and Thursdays maybe. Mr. Keita Shah.
Good morning. I try to make it on Talking Point almost every day. Just like how I try to go to the gym almost every day. I almost went on Monday, almost on Tuesday, almost on Wednesday, and let's see, Thursday, we'll find out what happens then.
Well, I don't know if I believe you with all of those almost's, but anyway, I'll leave that there. The first story that I saw this morning, I think this is, it's kind of weird to me. This might be the straw that breaks the camel's back with regards to my sanity and reason in my brain. But didn't the Prime Minister just say that they're going to redouble their efforts? Not yesterday, but the day before yesterday, right? And it was reported yesterday in the Daily News. And then today it's reported that senior officers are being put in, at least in one case, the report says, as much as 5 years of leave. Now tell me, Keaton, maybe there's something I'm missing because this doesn't add up. And I've already said, it's not that I disbelieve the media house that reported it. I just find that it's so ridiculous that I don't know, my brain is just not able to accept this as being correct, even though it might be technically, administratively correct. What do you say?
The thing is, I know that there was a directive earlier as part of crime fighting to limit the amount of time police officers were allowed to actually take in terms of leave. That's changed, and when I heard that it first came out, I actually wasn't on talking point at the time, but the first instance in my mind was, all right, you're using this as part of your crime fighting plan, at least we know a part of your crime fighting plan, but you could have only really said that and not much would have come out of it, because as part of contracts, as far as I'm aware, I'd love to be corrected on this, is that when you have leave, especially in the public service, it accumulates. You can't stop an individual from taking that vacation leave. It's there for them when they want to take it.
Right.
Right? The trouble is with these police officers, and it's a couple of things. One, are we going to miss the presence of these police officers? Would their presence really make a difference?
That's there, yeah.
Possibly yes, given that they're senior police officers and we don't know if there are individuals who have the experience to replace them. Although, arguably, I met some police officers who are in positions that are remarkably intelligent and say all the right things off air in person. So let's see what happens now if they get into that position. Possibly we might not miss them, given the current situation. Right? But administratively, you know, with contracts, as far as I'm aware, even if your time accumulates, you're allowed to take it off. So you can't really stop them.
But why? Like, because one of the things that I said earlier was, how did it get to this point? So I understand that it could accumulate and they should be allowed to go on leave. But then how does it get to the point where the man on TV himself has, I think it's 700 days worth of leave that he's taking from January, and the report says, you know, of as much as 5 years. How does it reach that point? I'm kind of confused how any contract would get to that point.
In terms of seniority, as you progress, you get a certain amount of time off, and that time actually increases after you've completed a certain number of years within the service. So that leave accumulates as well. And beyond just that, it doesn't matter whether it's 2 years or 5 years.
No.
Understand one thing though, we can criticize as much as we want. Because yes, given the crime situation in Trinidad and Tobago and given all that is happening and all that we are experiencing, I could understand why people are frustrated, although many people are saying, listen, we don't need these officers, they're a waste of time, because even when they were in such positions, crime is out of control.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? So that has been publicly expressed by many already. But beyond just that, honestly speaking, Sean, if any Trinbagonian out there had the opportunity to go on 5 years leave with paid, they wouldn't criticize it all.
But my point is, I understand it could be accumulated, but why was so much leave allowed to be accumulated? You mean to tell me that things were so drastic, they didn't take leave for what probably is at least a couple of years or more, right? To get 5 years worth of leave to accumulate. And now, all of a sudden, with the second year of 600 murders coming down the pipe, and all of the things that has happened, we're like, okay, yes, we need to clear the leave now. Why wasn't some sort of management policy put in place so that, you know, hey, don't wait several years of never taking leave to then now take this big chunk of leave? Because to some extent, somebody has to fill that position.
You just kind of answered the question yourself. And that is, you said management policy. And let's be real, we barely have management as it is. So people probably weren't thinking of that. That was the last thing on their mind. That's the problem. A lot of the situations here in Trinidad is short-term thinking. It's really short-term. Nobody thinks about how is this policy now going to impact Trinidad and Tobago 10 years down the line, going to impact us 5 years down the line. No, people are thinking, well, how is this going to affect us in the next 6 months? Because again, this policy from the TTPS came out just a few months ago in regards to the limit as to how much leave police officers can take. Going back to the Prime Minister's statements a couple days ago, where he said, and it's via social media page, he says, the persisting violence will not be tolerated and the government will increase efforts to hunt and disarm criminals. The persisting violence will not be tolerated. So then what changed all of a sudden? You mean to tell us that we were tolerating it all the time before? You might say that I'm reading into the Prime Minister's comments too literally, but you have to understand, as head of the National Security Council, at what point did it click in his head that, hold on, wait, we can't tolerate this nonsense anymore? We have to actually try and do something about it. Earlier in the day, the president made a decision to call out 100 reserve officers from the Defense Force to assist police in their operations. But the thing is, at police operations throughout Trinidad and Tobago, I can't be everywhere at once, but never have I seen soldiers actually working with the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. I don't know if the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service are the ones out on the ground and the soldiers are doing all the administrative work. I'm not sure if that's the case, but I've never seen the Defense Force soldiers as part of police operations. So calling out 100 reserve, all right, cool, it might help the situation. It needs more than 100 though.
That was the first thing I thought when I just saw that number.
Yeah, it needs more than 100 though. But again, the Prime Minister is saying that notwithstanding the persistent efforts of the various states of machinery, or various state machinery. And I'm thinking, okay, you're speaking about persistent effort, right? No problem, cool. What exactly are the efforts that you are referring to? What is it that you're referring to? And this is what I'm talking about short-term thinking. This is reactionary. You've now taken this reaction, given the level of crime, given that you're realizing that it's affecting every aspect of life, including business, given that the fact that the United States has issued all these warnings against Trinidad and Tobago. And look, recently you had a US citizen who got robbed in Port of Spain. And saying, no, I'm just saying, okay, never read it. And if those stories become more and more persistent, how does it reflect on Trinidad and Tobago? We already don't have such a great name when it comes to the environment itself. I know Trinidad and Tobago is great. People love TNT, the culture, the arts, but come on, let's just be real with each other. So to come out and tell me the persisting violence will not be tolerated, great. But again, what was the paradigm shift? What clicked in your head? Because we've been facing this for years now. For years and years now, we've been facing it. And all of a sudden, it's not going to be tolerated. Prime Minister, look, I honestly would applaud any effort. And I would support any effort to try and dismantle criminal gangs and criminal activity in Trinidad and Tobago. But that's my point. I use the word effort. As far as I'm concerned, I have not seen any concrete effort. I don't even know what the crime plans are, and whilst you're not going to reveal all the information to the public, sometimes I wonder if you limit the amount of information because you yourself are not entirely sure. The individual who was at that meeting was the Minister of National Security. He has every right to be there, but this is the same individual whom took the position that it's not my duty or responsibility to formulate a crime plan. Maybe you're right. It's not your duty or responsibility to formulate a crime plan, but you are in a position to ensure that there is a crime plan. You are in a position to ensure that we have all the resources that are necessary for an effective crime plan. And that is not even taking place under your watch. The biggest positive of these police officers taking leave is that we might have some police vehicles that might free up now for other officers to use.
So I want to go back to that point, these two things together, right? Look at the timing, because I also said the same thing. What is different now? Children have been being killed before, right? We've had religious desecration of holy sites before. We've had a 600 per year murder rate last year. So what made this week all of a sudden 8 murders? We've had more murders over a period of 2 to 3 days before. So what made this situation special? And I do have to wonder, because the Commissioner of Police was there in the meeting. Is the Prime Minister, was he made aware of in this meeting or before that senior officers were going to be put on leave? Because how are you going to redouble your efforts when technically the people who hold the positions of these senior posts, of these leadership positions, are going on leave within a couple of months, right? Not all of them, granted. It's going to be staggered. I get that. But how do you're staggering 5 years worth of leave? So that means that one position is taking 5 years or 2 years worth of leave, and another guy is waiting for his turn a couple of years down the line, how do you implement serious plans, right, and long-term plans and goals when your leadership is having to be ducked in and out, and then you have to have people acting in the post? We already saw what an acting commissioner could do to a police service. We want the acting head of the Northern Division for the next 2 years?
Again, to me, the approach is, I can't blame these officers for taking the time off, because that is leave they've accumulated in accordance with their contracts, right? That's just one thing. So, no, but you have to understand, as much as all of us will be in a position to feel as though we're upset, and rightfully so, given the crime situation.
Peter, I want to push back on that a little bit.
Again, there are policies in
I want to
place.
push back on that a little bit, because if you're dedicated with your job, those who are both, well, sorry, if you're dedicated with your job and you have a significant amount of intelligence to make this determination, and where you put that second category, how much you need for that, I'll leave that up to everybody individually to figure that out on their own. You would anticipate this yourself, at least for yourself. As you watch your leave accumulate, and you know at some point I'm going to have to take it, especially if they don't want to pay me off for it, right? And then one would hope that if you are dedicated to the duty of your job, you will say, somewhere sooner, right, somewhere more in the past, before it reaches this point, hey, let me start taking my leave, let me start my leave here and there, take a month here this year, take a month there or two next year. Let me not reach the point now where I'm forced to take 5 years. Now, I don't know if any of them did that. I would hope that they did, that they tried themselves, because they would have seen the amount of leave they're accumulating to forestall that. But so if they didn't, look, then it's also partially their fault.
I love my job, and our jobs are not easy, and we make mistakes on our job many times, right? Anybody, you know, in their position who has a love for their job will want to do their job to the best of their ability. It's love for the job, right? Because you could go to work every single day, and you could make sure and you be the first person to arrive at work and the last person to leave. That doesn't mean that you love your job, you know. Beyond that, it's just that if I was in a position, trust me, I'd love to get 2 years of leave with paid. But that's not the reason why I'm arguing it. Look at it from this perspective. What if these officers, again, looking at it from an all-around point of view, not just from one way, what if these officers said, you know what, I can't afford to take the time off now. Crime is getting out of control. We don't have all the officers or all the resources that are necessary. So I have to be here to ensure that what we do have works in the most efficient manner, and we try and get the most out of it, right? So that is why, okay, you know what, I have leave to take, but I ain't bothering. I'm going to come out and so. Think about it. That may have been the case. Now, in some instances, you never know. A police officer might come out to work today, and he comes out to work every day and leave accumulates, and he just doesn't do his job still, because I could be coming to work and signing the book and saying, okay, yes, I am present, but I'm not necessarily doing my job. So that is not commitment, you know, that is not dedication. That is just a matter of me just coming out every day and signing the book, and you know what, all right, cool, let's just see what happens. So there are many factors to consider in this entire situation. I understand why some people are upset and angry, but it's also the systems that are in place that a lot of public servants, all public servants, actually benefit from.
Let me put it to you this way. One of the things with the career advancement for women in professional fields is that maternity leave, no matter how anti-discriminatory their workplace is, maternity leave to some extent hamstrings their career, because they're just not in the office. And we're talking 12 weeks in the States, 14 weeks here, right? Somebody else is in the office. So if a promotion comes up, you know, they're in the office right now and they have done the most recent work on the most recent projects and handled the responsibility the most recently, they'll probably get the promotion instead of the mother who is on her rightfully allowed maternity leave because she's just not present. Now, if I'm a career officer, I have never heard of any high stress, high responsibility, high profile profession where you could take multiple years of leave and your career is not going to be derailed. And to me now, the question is, again, is this what the officers want? Did they allow it to happen this way? Did they try to do anything against it? Or Is this also a political, like maybe people are aware of the political ramifications? Hey, I need the senior superintendent to take 2 years leave so that he's no longer running down the line for a higher post.
So, one, be upset more so with how the public service operates on a whole, not just the TTPS.
Well, that is true. Yes,
so
that is true.
So if your anger is be frustrated, and this is just one story in many instances. I know of others who have accumulated leave and have to take care of it.
There's a police service commission separate to the public service commission.
No. I know. But you also have bargaining agreements and you have unions for every single thing in Trinidad and Tobago, right? Two, in regards to what you were saying, I could understand the point that you're making. There may be some politics behind it. There may be some instances where this might perhaps have a good lining to it. We're just not seeing it as yet. We're just not experiencing it as yet.
I want to talk about that afterwards.
There may be the possibility of a good lining. Who knows? Again, these police officers were in these senior positions, and it's not entirely their fault. But crime has just gone completely out of control. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But again, I go back to the point that here in TNT, we use duct tape for everything. Everything in Trinidad and Tobago is duct tape. And this thing about selective rage, we're very upset over this situation, and people are saying, as I said, some people are saying, fine, we're not going to miss them, good riddance, let them go. Some people are saying, let them go, but without pay, because of the crime situation and how it's gone out of control. Some people say, oh God, how they could let them go, we need police officers, we have a shortage and this and that. Listen, as far as I'm concerned, there has not been a holistic approach to crime fighting efforts, and I keep using this word efforts because of what the Prime Minister himself has said, redoubling efforts. And as head of the National Security Council, as far as I am concerned, I don't want to say it's too late, because it could get worse, the situation could get worse, but we're heading down that way, and hopefully following this meeting, which, by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we have a similar meeting with heads of national security earlier this year? And the Prime Minister, he met with her over the same thing,
You do realize that the implications of having a National Security Council is that it's actually supposed to meet. So to some extent, this meeting doesn't, when you think about it, shouldn't be that special. I mean, the Minister of Housing, also head of government business in the House, is also present, as well as the Minister of Everything. And I mean, it seems as though, if you want something done, you kind of need the Minister of Everything backing it up to some degree, just to be ensured that the group project has one group member that's actually willing to write out the project, right? But this should not be that big of a deal, because if there's a National Security Council, you mean to tell me they only meet, what, twice a year? What kind of council is that?
Meeting twice a year, listen, you can meet every week, right? You could meet every week. That doesn't mean anything is getting done. You can meet, you can have as many meetings as you want. You can call as many staff meetings as you want. You can list out all the issues and all the problems and all the ideas, right?
Yeah.
If management doesn't change their mindset or their attitudes or their approach, then nothing will happen. Nothing is going to happen. That's just a basic understanding. That's common sense. Management could also change their attitude and mindset. It's the workers below them as well that has to also implement that strategies in their approach, in their daily thinking. But there's a reason why you have management, right? So as far as I'm concerned, you could meet every week as a National Security Council. Fine, cool. Clearly that hasn't worked thus far. So this is where I go back to this term efforts. If all these efforts have not worked thus far, if all these strategies and initiatives have not worked thus far, what makes you think doubling them is going to make a difference? Honestly speaking, what really makes you think that doubling them is going to make a difference? A holistic approach is needed. And as far as I'm aware, I'd like to support any effort. Quite frankly, I don't even know what's going on here in TNT in regards to national security and crime fighting.
Okay.
And I don't think neither does the National Security Minister or, for that fact, the National Security Council.
Kitan, they had two news stories today that kind of shocked me because of the implications. The first one, did you see what happened with the Cali Bay fishermen and what they said?
Yes, I
They
did.
were run off of waters off of Marabella. So we're not even talking about, you know, close to the maritime border, I believe, of Venezuela, right? They were run by gunmen saying they just caught fish there. And this also happens in North Trinidad. You caught fish here, they cut their nets. And to me, and they say gunmen, so it doesn't even necessarily mean pirates off of Venezuela or what have you, right? Now, the report does say pirates, but it just says pirates and gunmen. It doesn't say, give any further hints of where their point of origins might be. And I'm just thinking, look at this, look at this. The criminal element now, wherever they come from, whether domestic or abroad, is controlling parts of our waters. The Coast Guard has basically ceded control of our maritime waters to criminals. That's what this report, the implications is. Now granted, it's one report. I don't know how true it is. This is their testimony that their nets are being cut in well, it's not south of the island, but, you know, waters to the south of the Gulf of Paria and waters to the north. And the other story is the fact that apparently a man that was accused, he was in court. This is the case of Mr. Mikhail Singh. They put him to sit down on a chair, I believe, after his plea for bail was denied.
At the Tunapuna police station.
And he walked out. He was denied bail, and he basically just walked out of court.
No, he didn't walk out of court.
No, it said in the third court, he was put to sit on a chair by members of the court staff.
And this is where I'm getting conflicting stories,
Okay.
and I've been trying to verify it, and it seems as though every time I go to a different source, they're saying something different. There's one story suggesting that it's the court. There's another story suggesting it was in the police station. He was back in the police station. They put him on a chair, and 5 minutes later, when they went to check, he wasn't there. So I don't know what is it with the TTPS and chairs, boy. I think the chairs are the worst enemy of the TTPS. When you put this man on the chair, it seems as though, given that he was able to jump a fence and run through a schoolyard, apparently, as I said, so many different stories.
Just the fact that your security is so lax, you're allowing criminals.
He wasn't even handcuffed. For all indications, he wasn't even handcuffed. So, and here's this. Also, he had a bad leg. Apparently, one of his legs were badly injured. So he sat on a chair. He's not handcuffed. He's badly injured. He was able to exit the police station or the court, run through a school. A primary school, and escape. A manhunt is now on because I have no news that the police have caught him.
So if we redouble the efforts, we'll put him to sit on two chairs then. That's what doubling those efforts mean, because there is no effort there.
And we leave him for 10 minutes instead of 5.
We leave him for 10 minutes instead of 5. We give him more of a head start. Now,
no, but hold on. My thing is, right, are there any officers who will actually be reprimanded for failing to actually execute their duties and responsibilities? Is that going to happen? Any disciplinary action?
So it seems as though, according to the report that says he was in court, police and court officers are going to be questioned about this. Now, that's what we hear all the time. We don't hear what happens after that fact. And the problem, of course, is, do we have faith that something happens after that fact? The other thing, I want to get back to what you're saying, the benefits of...
Sorry, were the cameras operating in the station or the courtroom as well? I have so many questions. And we are sure.
You do realize what this means, right? When the government says, let's go back to the Bail Act, it's like, well, you can't even keep the people denied bail in custody. What is the point of denying them bail anyway? Right?
No, it's just one example. It's one example that we know of. So.
Yeah, somehow these things tend to become a trend, or they were a trend, and we just never heard about it until a report finally hits the press. Right?
Oh, you want to have the next story, which I found baffling? It's to deal with crime, but not with the TTPS or the Prime Minister. But there was, apparently an ATM machine was robbed of cash.
Right. Okay. What's baffling about that?
What's baffling about it is, they didn't steal the machine or break the machine. They actually went through the machine's vault. They had the key to the machine's vault. Yeah? So, I just putting that out there.
Now, in a proper working crime-fighting system, that should be a humongous red flag that would actually make it easy for you to catch the criminals, because then it narrows down the suspects who had access to the key, and you work your way back from there.
I'm
But
sure the cameras were looking at the ATM.
Somehow, I cannot, right, and there should be cameras working at the ATM, but somehow my faith that this crime is going to be solved, it can't be high. It just can't, because you never know. You never know in this country. And that leads me back. You said that maybe it might be a good thing that these senior officers went on leave. And maybe that's the unspoken implication that they don't want us to know, that this is addition by subtraction. Because I do have to ask, do we honestly think that the TTPS promotes from within based on merit? Because everything that we hear, even, I mean, how the public service is run, how the TTPS is run, it doesn't seem to be the case. We don't have any good examples of this being true. And I hate to say this, but one of the biggest proofs of the pudding is the two best commissioners, I think, based on the perception of a lot of people, in the last several years, are technically people who were not police officers. And I'm talking about Gibbs from Canada, and whether you like it or not, the perception of Gary Griffith as police commissioner, and he wasn't a police officer, he came from a minister of national security and essentially took a step down to fill that post. So the rest of the people that were promoted from within, acting or non-acting, we kind of look at them as I wish we had someone better. There's none of them, I think, that anyone found satisfactory. So maybe you might be right.
I can't paint all police officers with a broad brush and say that they all. I've had very good experiences with police officers.
Right.
Very, very good experiences. I had a very good experience 2 days ago at the Beston Street Police Station, right? And tremendous officers, very professional, very helpful, very kind. And that's the thing. I give them credit. Every time you see officers doing their job, I've seen officers actually doing their job. And I even on the highway, I want to put on my window and salute them and say, officer, job well done, thank you. You can't do that.
Even when they use their sirens to run through traffic.
You can't do that. I didn't want to get started on that. But then I've also had bad experiences with police officers, right? And I wonder how in the world you get here in the first place. But nevertheless, I don't want to paint police officers with a broad brush because of that experience. I've had very many good experiences and very many bad experiences. But to the point that you're making in regards to Gibbs and even in regards to Gary Griffith, I'm not too sure what the public perception of Gibbs was. At the time, people were very frustrated as well. But yet, there is a possibility that in order to clean up the TTPS and the services, you need to bring somebody from the outside. The reason being is because the person that you promote to the position of police commissioner, who has been in the TTPS, might be part of the bad bunch themselves, might be part of that cohort of corrupt officers.
Or not just corrupt, just lazy.
Might be leading it. You have to understand that sometimes maybe you need to bring somebody from the outside who has not been there, who doesn't know everybody, so is not pally-wals with everybody, and may not have had a hand in the service or may not have had a hand in any illicit or corrupt activities. You need them to come inside to clean up the mess. That is the approach that sometimes is needed. But for as long as we keep, I don't know who we keep promoting or why we keep promoting them. Like, as I said, when earlier when Christopher came to the position, my take on it was, let's give her a chance. Let's see what happens. Give her the opportunity. Let's not be too hard and fast or jump any guns. That was my position. We could go back to that episode of Talking Point and look at it. And then as things progressed and as things progress, my position changed. I'm like, wait boy, I gave you the opportunity and the chance and this is what we're getting in return.
And just to put the cherry on top, the Police Service Commission now wants to be consulted with regards to certain aspects of managing the police service, which is technically under the purview of the commissioner.
Listen, we're going to hire 1,000 more police officers, right? You want to know what that is? That is called employment. Exactly. That is not necessarily called bolstering the service. That is your government creating jobs for you.
We're going to redouble the efforts and add more people to redouble the efforts. But if the efforts is barely anything.
I wonder who's going to get the contracts to facilitate cars for the TTPS when we actually hire them 1,000 more police officers. Anyway.
Or we might end up with 1,000 more office bench warmers.
Or 1,000 more doubles sales. But like I said, I don't want to paint every officer
as bad.
Is
that where the local police eat doubles, not donuts? Is that what it is?
I haven't had a donut in a while, actually. I think we should take a break and
All right,
get some
yeah,
donuts.
yeah.
Yeah, that sounds very good, doesn't it? Let's take a break on the program.
Here is the WESN News on the Hour. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. 32-year-old insurance agent to face multiple fraud charges in Rio Claro court. Bags of camouflage clothing and accessories were seized from a business place in downtown Port of Spain. And internationally, Indonesian film executives jailed for cough syrup linked to over 200 child deaths. Now for the details. Several bags of camouflage clothing and accessories were seized from a business place in downtown Port of Spain on Wednesday afternoon. A joint team of officers from the Interagency Task Force and the Customs and Excise Division reportedly swooped down on a store on Frederick Street after receiving information and confiscated the camouflage items for sale. The officers visited the store around 4 p.m., where they spoke with the proprietor and told her that the clothing was prohibited. Police seized several garbage bags filled with the items and loaded them into vehicles. The owner of the business place, who was a Chinese national, was detained. Police and Custom and Excise Division are expected to view the clothing seized. Under Legal Notice 33 of 1984, it is illegal to acquire, possess, import, or sell camouflage pattern materials unless the Minister of National Security certifies that it is to be used by the TT Defense Force. In a legal case set to unfold in Rio Claro, a 32-year-old woman, Diane Morales, is scheduled to appear before a magistrate on Tuesday, November 7th. She faces a total of 11 charges of fraudulent conversion involving a sum of $800 and 9 charges of obtaining $800 through false pretenses. Diane Morales, residing in Sancho Road in New Grant Village, Princess Town, will be called to answer these charges, which have been brought against her by PC Gator of the Fraud Squad East Office. The allegation stems from a series of incidents between August 30, 2020 and October 30, 2022. During this period, it is claimed that a woman entrusted a total of $8,800 to Diane Morales, who was working as an insurance agent. The money was intended to cover monthly premium payments for various insurance policies. Internationally, the boss and 3 other officials from an Indonesian firm whose cough syrup was linked to deaths of over 200 children have been sentenced to jail. They were handed 2-year prison sentences and fined $63,056. The firm, Afi Pharma, was accused of producing cough syrups containing excess amounts of toxic substances. The company's lawyers said they denied negligence and the firm was considering whether to appeal. Prosecutors had been seeking a prison sentence of up to 9 years for Afi Pharma's chief executive, Arif Harahap, and 7 years for each of the other defendants. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for watching.
welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Shaw Michael Small, Keaton Shaw, both here on Talking Point today. Had some interesting news coming with regards to our redoubled effort for crime fighting. Apparently that does not include senior police officers. It seems as though they might be halving those efforts. Kind of the reverse direction of the promises that are being made. But we're going to open up the phone lines for you, the viewers. We had a lot to say on this matter, so I'm sure there will be those that agree with us, those that disagree with us. Call in, let us know what you think, or if there's some other story that you want to talk about. And we have a caller from San Fernando one time. Good morning, caller from San Fernando. You're on the air.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning, sir.
You know, this morning it was a very difficult to listen to you guys this morning. I must say you all showed your limitations on your understanding of how the public service has been working. Let me first say, for Keaton, you made a comment about police, defense force officers working with police officers, with the 100 officers that the president signed to allow. Let me say this. Since the 1990 coup in Trinidad and Tobago, there have been a policy of the state when the protective services deem it necessary that they allow army officers, well, the defense force to work with the police. This is an ongoing thing in Trinidad and Tobago since 1990.
Yes, I know.
This is nothing new. Secondly, you all talked about the leave, the police service, that report of the leave of police officers, and the one that still stood out is Roger Alexander. Let me say this to you all. This is a problem throughout the public service and other state enterprises in Trinidad and Tobago. This is nothing new. The fact that it was made public on the newspaper, and as I said, I always talk about these selective outrages in Trinidad and Tobago. This is nothing new. This goes on every day in every ministry in the government service, including the police, including the army, including the fire service, all agencies. And let me say this again. If you all recall, do you all remember, if you go back you always see, especially with senior officers, that they go on pre-retirement leave?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Pre-retirement leave is a way to deal with this. The only other way, they have been struggling with this, and this is not something unique to the public service. You know. This has to do with a lot of companies have this same issue about straddling where I need somebody or send them on leave. Now, it has been proven. There have been a lot of research studies on this, that the longer you stay away from the leave that you have, the less effective that you get. So leave is there for a reason.
That's a good point too, yes.
Leave is there for rest and relaxation, for a break from the job to rejuvenate yourself. Now, we've been having, as I said, we've been having this issue for a long time. There are two ways to solve it. Either you send them on the leave, or you buy their leave out. And the government has been struggling with that conundrum because there are people going on leave in the state sector for 6 months, 9 months, for a year. This is normal.
Yes.
This has been going on for each other. This is a perennial problem.
Caller,
I would like somebody to call and talk to you and explain to you. And
caller,
call and explain
everything that you have said.
Yeah, Keaton.
I said it.
Keaton did say that.
Yes, but my point is, let me say this to you, where I get it out. To say all of that, my point was, you all came up with not one suggestion of a solution to the issue.
If that's your point, fair enough.
And that is what bothered me in your discourse this morning. That we know, this is something that we know. We don't want to know the problems again. We know the problems are there.
Now, hold on.
We want some solutions.
All right, fair enough, caller. I did mention, and it was very brief and very vague, that the issue stems from the public service, and that is what we need to fix. I also said a holistic approach. Now, if I didn't go into detail, fine, fair enough.
Yeah.
I get you on that point. But I did mention solutions.
I'll just say this. I did say, one of the things is I'm not clear as to exactly why this happens, but I did say, or I asked the question, why is the police service being run like the rest of the public service. When it's been identified, they have their own service commission, right? So how is it, and I get it, there's unions and there's a whole lot of a mess, but...
Let's pause on our response. Let's take this call. We've had a call from Tunapuna waiting. Good morning, caller. Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, to the panel. I don't know if you all heard me, are you?
Yes, we can hear you, caller. Go ahead.
Okay, right. I have viewed the media, most of the media, with respect to the question of the co-opting of 100 people from the Volunteer Defense Force. But nobody seems to be given information as to whether any analysis was made with respect to the needs of these people, in what situations, consequently, there would have been, you know, mechanisms in place to utilize them in those situations. So I'm still at a loss to know, well, what are they going, where are they going to be utilized, in what form and fashion. And I think it's necessary that this be addressed so that we don't have, as we are accustomed having in news, 100 people dead, 100 people have been co-opted or introduced, 1,000 more people, boots on the ground, and so on and so on, without any proper information with respect to, yes, this is to fight crime, and in what situation. That's one. The second aspect I've been listening to you this morning on is the question of policemen and leave. And I'm saying across the board in the public service, that should not be a problem. I was a senior officer in the public service. And the first thing that has to happen is that there should be a proper succession planning. Every public service department has a human resource, proper succession planning. And if that is in place, it would mean that the persons who are next in line should be properly prepared to take on the office of those who have to go and leave.
Yes.
And there should be very few situations where these people have to come to leave. Obviously, there can and would be, in terms of there may be some sensitive activities going on and so on. But not this carte blanche business where a person has 5 years leave and so on and so on.
Caller, we agree. We agree. Thank you.
If people are properly prepared, those next in line, then I don't think I hear your lamenting. I don't think there should be any problem with their being able to take over those offices.
I'm in agreement with you. And thank you very much for your contribution.
Sorry,
and it goes back to what Sean was saying this morning. It's the management policies. And we expanded a bit on that as well in regards to the police officers who are going to take over, who are going to actually hold on these positions. All right? So, again, thank you very much for your contribution. Good morning, caller from Claxton Bay.
Morning, Sean. Morning, Keaton.
Good morning.
Yeah, just this ongoing thing we have in the Gulf here with the fishermen. You see, in the Caribe, we have about 15 things we call it toxin. So like an intelligence scene. Now the cutlasses they holding the gain price rate, but here we have me holding a 1,000 pound cutlass, but you're dumping 800 pounds. The small one. Now they're taking, the Chinese only taking from the 1 pound up. You understand what's going on? So these fellas them is destroying. So the guys them are wrong. They get and they're stopping them from dumping it. And they blame. Look, for instance, dumping in Claxton Bay here. Claxton Bay fishermen have no toxin, kind of bad name. But the authority is not doing nothing about it. So you know, the people who in charge of fisheries, you have a certain size to catch.
Right.
It's destroying.
So
yes, and the Carnage fishermen and the Marabella fishermen, they do line fishing for the colour fish. They bang, they pull lines. They have no net. So they destroy the fellas, them can't make a day work.
Wow.
So they get together and ban themselves and trying to protect the areas from these fellas and them.
Okay.
So the Caribbean man is destroying the catches and the babies they're killing out. They're dumping all over the place. They're dumping in the cane field. They're dumping, you understand what I'm talking about?
Right.
All over.
All right,
and the authorities not doing nothing about it.
Thank you for raising that point. Thank you. We will actually try. I would try to do some research on that and get more information. Thank you.
So my assumptions on the implications were wrong. It's not that criminals have taken it over. It's just that it's a wild, wild west situation because no one is enforcing the law.
No, it's not. It's just various fishermen groups are now against each other.
Because what Mr. Fisherman said was, it's not just that they're fishing in waters other people are fishing in, but they're overfishing it.
Yeah, they're trolling.
And you know, that's a problem because it'll deplete your fishing stocks.
Yeah, they have no regulations in regards to anything. Even with regards to hunting in TNT, you have hunting licenses.
Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Fisherman.
Good morning, caller from St. Anne's.
Good morning.
Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I listened to the remarks the two of you were making earlier about perhaps looking outside of the TTPS, perhaps even outside the country to find a suitable candidate to run the organization. And I have to say, a lot of what you had to say on that subject made sense. And I used to feel that way myself when I was a bit younger. But as I've grown older in this place, I personally believe that there are certain offices that should be limited to the citizenry of this republic. I mean, the Constitution refers to the presidency, office of Prime Minister, and so on. But I also believe there are other offices, like the Chief Justice and the COP, because of the way they fit into our national life, should be reserved for citizens. I used to, at one point, work as a civilian in the TTPS, and I'm all too aware that there are qualified people there. To say nothing of the experience, there are qualified people there. The issue may be that the people who are best suited to lead the organization may be at too low a rank. And that is where you find the old heads being given, by virtue of seniority and qualification, the option to get into the higher position. But the ones who are actually competent and aware and have that day-to-day experience in the field are the ones who are being blocked by virtue of their rank. And I know that's an issue that's going on. I also want to refer back to something I spoke of last week in regard to the NIB pension, because it was asked at the tail end of the conversation between the two people on the show. Persons in public office rather, are given the option from as early as 50 to retire from the public service. It is compulsory to retire at 60. However, there are exceptions. The current COP is a good example. She is beyond 60 and she's been allowed to retain her position. But most public officers are required to leave no later than 60. And that means because of the time it takes for pensions to be processed after their career has ended, a lot of them depend on the NIB pension, which is usually paid out a lot faster, a lot sooner than their work pensions. And that's why, as I said last week, if they push it to 65, a lot of public officers who depend on that interim payment are going to find themselves up against a wall. That's it.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you.
One thing, caller, and I'm not doubting what you said. I'm just wondering if that's how the government is doing it. It kind of makes no sense then, because one would expect you would raise the retirement age by actually raising the retirement age. So he makes a good point that I honestly don't find difficult to believe that, once again, on a technical level, things might be not implemented properly.
Well, I think the main reasoning that we've heard thus far in regards to increasing the retirement age and quality, you've made a very good point in regards to the NIB and the processing of pensions generally, even outside of the NIB. The main reason that the government at this time is looking to increase the retirement age is because they're seeing that you have an aging population, and two, contributions are not being made. Now, the government hasn't spoken about the management of NIB and NIB investments and NIB funds. They've been very limited in what they're seeing there. But you could raise the retirement age to 65 and the policies remain the same. Just bear that in mind. The only thing I'm changing is the retirement age.
But that's the thing. The caller is saying if it's specific to NIB, then it won't actually deal with whatever part of the regulation says retirement from the public service at 60. So technically, you have to kind of do you have to do all of the things. You can't just do one of the things.
You realize that generally speaking, it takes quite a bit of time to process a lot of things. You know, I'll raise a point in regards to processing after this call. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, morning, caller from Digicel. I was wondering.
Yes. Well, you know my situation, so...
Yes.
But I took this opportunity just to motivate and set, which is so really great to see both of you on set. It really brings a joy to my heart. And I just calling to touch base with you all, and also where retirement age is concerned. I remember my grandfather. He used to work as supervisor in Shagaramas to the Americans. And he used to walk from St. James to Shagaramas every morning religiously.
Oh, wow.
To get up from 4:30 and start walking from St. James. Sometimes we may get a lift, people who know him and so on. But that was very... but when he was forced to retire, because he used to walk on the roads and supervise, and a drum of hot tap fell on his feet. So at the age of 49, 1 year before he was supposed to retire, he had stopped working. And at the end of his retirement, he was rewarded with a great lump sum of $190 for 49 years work.
Wow.
So that just to tell you how things were then. And you compare that to now. So it's just a matter that people, my grandpa never used to want to stay home, whether he was sick or not, he used to go out to work. He never stay was sickly, nothing. 49 years you work religiously and go and do your job. So I just called, and I'm glad to see you all. So proud to see both of you all. You know that both of you all there together makes the show at least 75% much better. Because for one person to run a show, I can tell you that by experience of seeing and things.
It's not easy.
But I know, Keaton, you have a job to do. I look at you every morning.
Thank you,
Yes, we can't call in, but the fact is that it's great, really great. I'm honored to see you all. I hope you could be here more frequently. So I know it's very difficult for you because you have your own show. But as I say, keep good health and be safe and try and think carefully what you all are doing, because it's that sometimes we are facing that it's very difficult.
Yes, indeed.
So good luck to you all, and I don't know when I'm going to call again.
Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
We hope it's very soon. It's good to hear from you, caller, actually. It's that dose of positivity and encouragement.
Well, also with your situation, I'm very glad to hear from you, so that we could still hear that you're in good spirits and good health. But I mean,
talking point is by the way, caller. I mean, I have my responsibilities, and Sean has his responsibilities, but I've heard it all too often from many people, and it's needless to say, talking point will always be home. For both of us, talking point will always be home. It's amazing how, from when we started to now, how we've grown and how we've evolved. But yeah, I agree with you. One person doing a show is not easy. I do it every single morning, and Sean has been doing it as well. It's not the easiest thing. But if it's one thing, kudos to Sean. I know his positions at times when he's by himself is very difficult, but he pulls it off. You
get used to it. That's all I'll say about that. I just want to go back, Mr. Sanfana. You're right with regards that we didn't outwardly or overtly or even clarify what solutions could come. I think the solutions, though, are implied both by some of the things that we said and some of the things that you yourself said with regards to, I think, ultimately, what is the reason why officers can't take their leave annually? Because if it's a case where the responsibilities prevent them from doing that, well, then how is it that doesn't prevent 5 years worth of leave?
I don't know if it's a matter of they can't. I think it's a matter of some of them choose not to.
So while some of them, because I pointed out where there might be situations where why don't they choose not to, right? But you can't regulate what someone wants to do, right? Once it's within the rules and they want to do it, it is what it is. But the management, and that's what you was pointing out a lot, right? We didn't go further, but the management of it, right? And one of the callers did say proper succession planning should alleviate these sorts of things. But I would just like to caution, I don't know if you should have someone acting in a position like that for multiple years. I don't know if that's good. But Mr. Sanfana, you yourself, like I said, you implied, we need people to take leave. My family makes sure that employees get enough rest so that they could work optimally. So, the fact that if they're not taking their leave regularly and it's accruing, I think, yes, with regards to the efficiency is also a concern.
I think that we should take some leave so that...
we can't take leave.
No, so we could come back, our brains will be well rested, and we could be more efficient.
Keaton, there's no rest for the wicked, right? There's only rest for police officers, apparently. Now the question is, are they wicked? Does that break the rule?
I think that we should take some leave so that, you know, when our brains are well rested, we could come back and do a better show.
But I do wonder if this situation with leave in the public service, if it's not like one thing to fix, but many things to fix. Management, and with regards to the NIS, management, that word tends to come out a lot of things. Management.
I'm going to be speaking about this very soon on the morning show, and it's something that we could speak about in Talking Point. I know we don't have much time. One, the issue that I was talking about was of processing and efficiency.
Yeah.
I was going to raise the issue in regards to the probate office here in Trinidad and Tobago, where people who pass away leave a will, and it takes years and years and years to process. So much so that the client or the executor of the will may pass on during that time, and the process has to start all over again. Right? So here in TNT, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a will, you might not have a way because of the probate office. Two, that was just the point in regards to processing. But you were speaking about public service, right? And we're talking about efficiency in the public service. And the Minister of Public Administration, Alison West, has said we can expect more efficiency coming in the public service very soon, especially in regards to a work-from-home policy. I say, cool, we have a work-from-home policy. Might help in some situations. But apart from that, don't tell me that this is going to be the biggest, it's not the sole, but the biggest contributor to increased efficiency in the public service is going to be the work-from-home policy. We've been touting about this for about close to a year and a half, 2 years now. Bear that in mind. And then apart from that, hold on, we push in with this work-from-home policy, but I remember Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, he himself saying that how it's not going to work because public servants do not hold their responsibilities or do their duties. A work-from-home policy, he says, let's be real, is not necessarily going to be efficient. And then now we're saying that, okay, well, this is going to solve efficiency in the public service. My God, how times change within a matter of months.
I'm trying to remember everything in the article. I was not the impression that the work-from-home policy was the main thrust of it. And I do appreciate the fact that, look, there are some areas, and it might not even be the entire ministry or office, it might just be like a sub-office, that could run efficiency, and we have seen improvements. So at least at one point, you know, in Tobago, they had a whole new office for licensing, and renewing a license there was pretty easy. Of course, when you get into a more densely populated area, that might add extra challenges. But I guess the point is the amount of areas where the service is not just average or below average, but it's just bad. And you might be chipping away at it little bit, but it's hamstringing the country. And I don't know if the efforts that she's putting in during her tenure, or her term, sorry, is going to be enough to really make a difference just because of how large of a scope the issue is. And to some extent, it needs to be dealt with on some very basic fundamental levels with regards to the regulations and what's allowed and how the management and accountability will be. Because you can change the regulations all you want, but if the people who are supposed to enforce the thing ain't enforcing the thing, then it don't matter what you change.
I think I have an issue with people in the public service who are not doing their jobs or not carrying out their responsibilities or delay or take 3-hour lunch breaks, and yet they have security, yet they have their job and they're still collecting their pay. I have an issue with that. So caller from San Fernando, you know what my solution is? Out the door. Half these public servants, again, I can't paint all of them the same way, but half of them probably can't survive in the private sector. Let's be honest. I mean, so my solution is out the door.
But I'll caution, the flip side is that doesn't come with the caveat of making everybody a short-term contract worker, because that also has its problems. Getting a happy medium, and I think it comes with regards to the policies of how workers are hired and fired, because I believe they try to shortcut the system by saying, okay, contract workers, so we don't have to deal with your tenureship and your protections and your job. But that has its own problems as well. So they didn't want to, it seems as though nobody wants to actually deal with the root of the issue, how employment expectations are enforced, reasonable expectations are enforced, but that has to be done. Because there's too many things, like the 3-hour lunch break, like the excessive amount of leave, like the excessive amount of promotions not based on merit.
Look, we have to end the show now, but as far as I'm concerned, the way we handle employment, or view employment in the public service has to change. And the way, and a big part of it as well, you see this culture and mentality about everybody in TNT being entitled. I'm entitled to this, I'm entitled to that. That has also created a sense of laziness. And after 60 years, if that is the road that we're facing right now and challenges, come on, guys. Given the state of our affairs here in Trinidad and Tobago, that has to change. That really has to change.
I just want to say, Color from St. Anne's, we hear about the commissioner thing, and that's a good point to raise. That's an interesting point. Well, we don't have much time to really delve into it right now.
Anyway, Sean Michael Small.
Yes, Keaton Shaw.
Told you I was going to be on Thursday, and I was here.
Yeah. Folks, miracles can happen. Now, if only the country could, you know, get its situation in order.
I tell you what.
That might be too much of a miracle.
Could we get some good news tomorrow? Call us. I implore you to call in and give us some good news.
That's a good thing.
There is some good news that you get.
Kind of few and far between.
Some good news. Just have to look for it. So maybe tomorrow you can share some good news. Anyway, Sean Michael Small, have a good one.
You too, Mr. Shaw.
And ladies and gentlemen, do have a great day ahead. I'm Keaton Shaw. Today is a good day. Have a good day.
Hey.
And Talking Point will resume from 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. But until then, adios.
WESN.
I'm Andy Johnson, and you're watching WESN.